Alrighty, everybody. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another stream here. Let's see who we got here today. We got ourselves Mark, we have Kit, we have Tabletop, we have ourselves Court, we have Go West, Cheryl, and of course everybody else who is here and just chilling. It's good to see you guys. So, boy, do I got some stuff to talk about with y'all. Holy cow. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the storm here. Dude, this thing rapidly blew up. This thing literally went from, I think last time we talked about it, a Category 2 to a Category 5. Is it still a Cat 5? I heard that it's not. Let me pull up the latest NHC real quickly. Okay, so right now it is undergoing a eye wall replacement cycle. So it has briefly been weakened into Cat 4. That is why we are down 10 miles an hour from earlier. It was at 160 sustained. Now we're down to 150. But I would not be surprised if we quickly regain Cat 5 status. It is currently undergoing that eye wall replacement. You can see that the eye is not fully clear. It's typical with these systems here. But what's up, everybody? Let's see. We got Ghosted. What's up, Ghosted? What's up, Ponderosa? Weatherman, Josh's, Roisin, I think that's how you say it. Studios, Railfan, Pineapple, Matt, Divinely, Corbin. What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well. Crazy how fast it intensified. Dude, I know. It was crazy. Crazy. So, we're going to talk about that here in a second here. We do got some new watches for areas out there in the Bahamas. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But we got a new AOI, a new area of interest out here in the MDR. This is the main development region here. Has an overall 20% chance probability of another system we are monitoring right behind Erin. And we are seeing not really any chance of development in the next 2 days. So we are doing pretty good. Tropical Storm Team 11 months, thank you. Saying looks like another season of rapid intensification. Yeah, last year was a kicker too, that's for sure. What's up, Fast Car? Good to see ya. Cheryl says I heard that there was 100-foot waves out in the open sea. I don't know about 100 foot. I haven't seen anything on that. I saw that the max forecast had like 40-foot waves, but of course that was earlier. I don't think it's 100 foot, though, personally. Let's see. Corbin says, is there more of a chance of it hitting the U.S. now? No. The system is just going to remain east of the United States here. So I still want you guys to monitor Bermuda. We are just outside of the cone out here in Bermuda. But I do think that we could definitely have some impacts here. Because I've been watching the models here for a little bit here. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at those real fast. We're gonna switch off. We're gonna start the HWRF parent model here. So let's bring y'all over here to the models real quick, dude. That is crazy. Why does apparently HWRF has it getting down into like the the single digit 900s. That's interesting. Anyways, but yeah, we progressed our way further down in time. And so what's going to happen with this system as it continues working northwest? The system is actually going to get wider. It's going to get a lot bigger, which, some models do present that we could possibly see maybe some tropical storm conditions possibly out here by Bermuda. The HWRF parent model does show maybe about 30, maybe 35 knot sustained winds out here as the system kind of passes just to the west. The good news is that, this thing is not going to be impacting the United States directly. We are definitely going to have some pretty big waves out here on the U.S. East Coast, maybe some coastal flooding. Rip current, certainly a big concern as well. So we do got to look out for that. So if you have any beach plans, I wouldn't recommend being in the water as the storm kind of passes through, because essentially we are going to be having quite a bit of those rip current concerns. So we're definitely going to have to look out there for that. So anyways, what's up, KJ? Good to see ya. Let's see. Is it still moving west? Right now, yes, it is moving west at 15. You guys can check in the top left there. I have a little system that shows the latest. So it's currently at Cat 4. Sustained winds of 150, moving west at 15. So it was a Category 5, and like I mentioned, it's likely to become a Category 5 again, I believe. Let me bring you guys back over here to current sat. The reason why it got downgraded is because, like I was mentioning here a minute ago, it's undergoing what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. The best way I like to describe this is like, how some animals shed. This is kind of like a hurricane shedding. It's getting itself ready to be fresh again, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what this system is doing here. You can see, looking at the infrared here, the deep IR, there's really not any clearing going on. You can see where it's lighter, of course, where the eye would be. But it's not fully clear at the moment because it is undergoing that eye wall replacement cycle. And, the waters ahead of the system here are still absolutely favorable for, strengthening. Because, the system's actually forecasted to work its way into even warmer waters. Now, system is expected to be eventually downgraded to a Cat 4. And the reason it's probably going to do that is because the system, like we mentioned here, back at the models and stuff, kind of where we're at right now, it's a very tight, kind of compact hurricane. And as we progress further down in time, the system's Windfield is going to get a lot bigger. You guys see how much wider the system does get here in the future cast. So it's going to use a lot of its energy, not in its maximum strength, but in its overall size. It's going to start to grow out. So that is in the forecast, and models have been talking about that for days at this point. So that's pretty much a given. But you know what, though? Like I mentioned, the waters out here are extremely warm. It's even heading in. Right now we're like 28, 29 degrees Celsius waters. But it is tracking its way into even warmer waters here, about maybe 30, locally 31, degrees Celsius out there, That's not the only thing that contributes, to activity here. A lot of it has to do with the wind shear as well. Looking at the upper level profiles or just the wind shear in general, you can see we do have this upper level anti-cyclonic rotation here in the upper atmosphere. So this is the venting that the system is doing. There is no jet, that's kind of hitting the storm and causing it to weaken. However, later in the forecast, though, you can see as we really work our way up here, between Bermuda and the States, you notice that there's a really big jet stream that's going to be positioned over the northeast. And this is actually going to prevent it from getting too close to the United States here. It's going to be this jet stream kind of pushing it away from us. And, you can see it kind of tracks its way here to the north overall. And then once it kind of gets caught up in that jet stream, you can see it starts to really shift its way to the east here because of that, because of that wind shear that we have, that jet stream that's in place. So that'll be good. That'll definitely be good. And also at that point, it'll also kind of act against the system as well. It'll kind of prevent the system from, obviously getting any stronger, which it likely wouldn't up here anyways. But, it really prevent the system from, continuing to hold itself. It'd actually really start to weaken once it rolls into that wind shear because, these systems are very much organized systems. They're vertically stacked. They're very easy to throw off balance. And when you have a lot of strong wind shear pushing against that storm, it's going to destabilize the storm structure. It's going to kind of choke out the storm essentially. So that's kind of what the system eventually is going to be running into. It's going to be in that jet stream there. Let's see here. Let's see, zero predictions it'll make landfall in the U.S. No, it's not going to. More than likely, we're not going to get anything anywhere near the United States here. Looking at latest spaghetti models here. Actually, let's hop y'all back over here real quickly. The system, yeah, we're not gonna have any U.S. impacts, or U.S. landfall, I should say. We continue working our way here to the northwest over time. You can see the models are actually in pretty good agreement here, as you can kind of tell. Let me go ahead and bring up my pen here so I can actually draw and stuff like that on the screen for y'all. But yeah, we do have a pretty good amounts of agreement here between the models, overall. And so once again, there's Bermuda, that little island out there, that little speck, and then here's the U.S. East Coast, the northeast up here. All the models here, suggest this thing just kind of curving right between, and the line of best fit here, that median has it kind of right in here, which does take everything just away from the U.S. But like I mentioned, with the system, once it reaches out in these waters, the wind field is going to be quite massive. It's going to have quite a big, strong wind field. And what that's going to do is that's going to really stir up those waters too. So like I've mentioned before, what is going to be a concern is going to be, rip currents and, some coastal impacts will absolutely be a concern for the United States. So that's what I'm saying. If you guys are, planning on going to the beach here anytime soon, those waves are going to be a little rough, and I'd recommend that you don't go deep in the water. I mean, yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend it because, rip currents is a huge, huge concern. If you don't know what a rip current is, it's basically a strong current that pulls you back. So if you go deep in the water, it actually pulls you out to sea. So it's very dangerous. And, the one little bit of advice to you guys is that say you are caught in a rip current, which you really shouldn't put yourself in that position of risk anyways. But if you are, do not swim directly back to shore. You'd think, people would think that you would just go directly back to shore. You got to go parallel, because if you go back, that current's still going to be pulling you back out to sea, and you're just going to use up all of your energy, and you're not going to get nowhere. So you got to swim parallel to the shore, and that will be the way to get out. And make sure you signal for help. But anyways, don't put yourself in that position anyways, it wouldn't be good. So just stay out of the water for a little bit here. Looking at the lower dynamics here, we're going to pull up the wave height here. Actually, we're going to go to East U.S. here. So let's pull up the Eastern U.S. just to kind of look at some of those coastal impacts here. So pulling up that significant wave height here, I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to have quite a bit of big waves rolling through. Those waves are really going to start to be noticeable pretty much here between the 18th and the 19th across, the southeastern United States. And then, of course, this is the GFS. As we work our way further down in time, you can see that some of the heaviest waves are likely going to be out there by, like, coastal North Carolina here. I mean, we're certainly seeing some pretty large waves. Bermuda, I know it's really hard to see, but Bermuda is right there, that little speck. But, we could definitely see some really, really big waves here with this system here. We're talking well over 40-foot waves in some areas, according to GFS, seems quite possible. But, across the U.S. East Coast out there, some of the strongest is going to be out there by North Carolina, which we're going to be seeing, maybe a good 10 to, 15-foot wave potential, according to this model. Now, this is a singular model, singular run as well. The previous run before this, if we take a look at that, previous run actually had it further away. The latest GFS model does, kind of have some more of those aggressive waves working their way closer to North Carolina here. It actually seems like it might be trending a little bit further west, as you can kind of tell here, which is definitely interesting. But yeah, so really just got to watch out for those big waves. I mean, that's going to be a concern for, a lot of the country, a lot of the East Coast here. So, we're going to see a lot of big waves, and also we're going to be, dealing with that rip current concern and stuff like that. Eventually, this will likely bring out some pretty big waves up across the Northeast here as well. For the 21st, you can see, some pretty big waves just off the, just off the coast of the Northeast here. Before working its way out and away. Waves should definitely start to kind of clear up here, several days after the system kind of rolls through. But, rip currents and stuff like that are still going to be quite a bit of a concern for a while. Definitely we are going to have some pretty big waves here out of this system. Looking at Euro here, obviously it's good to compare models. It's never good to just look at the... it's never good to just look at one model or one model run. But, yeah, I mean, look at this. Euro is actually pretty aggressive, too, having that system... drive a bunch of really, really big waves, over 10 foot or so, just off the coast of North Carolina. So at this point in time, it's not just one model. It's, two of the major models here talking about this, and, definitely could be bringing a big concern for, like, coastal North Carolina here, regarding big waves. And, of course, that could lead to some swelling and, some coastal flooding and rip currents and, stuff like that. So... But yeah, so, I mean, we're definitely going to have to look out for that. Bermuda, still definitely could see some pretty big waves out there as well, especially between, like, the 20th and 22nd. The Euro showing some pretty big waves. GFS, on the other hand, is a little bit different with timing with things. Waves have actually gone down a little bit here as the system appeared to have trended a little bit west, but... Should, like I said, still stay way away from the United States East Coast. We're not going to see any direct landfall on the U.S. East Coast. We're not expecting it. There's no guidance suggesting it. And like I mentioned, at this current state, the models are in pretty good agreement here. In which you can see, here's the main spaghetti models we all know and love. Once again, there's Bermuda. Here's the U.S. East Coast over here. You can see that, the main models, they all suggest that turn, as the system does continue going northwest. So definitely is not something to worry about direct landfall wise. And, the good thing is that, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to have that jet stream, kind of push the storm further away from the northeast. As the system kind of climbs up north, we're going to have that strong jet kind of push through, and it's going to allow for the storm to knock out further the sea, which is definitely good. Definitely will be good. So we definitely don't got to worry about that, direct landfall wise. Here's a few other models here. This is the GEFS ensembles. As you can see, this is just one model with a bunch of runs or members. And you can see that, we do have all of those members containing themselves out to sea. You can see that, that's definitely the common denominator here. There is not a singular member here that's suggested going out to the United States East Coast here. Even the GEPS, there is one member that shows it getting close, but, just not, still not direct landfall in the U.S., which it seems highly unlikely at this point. I wouldn't think, at this point in time, I don't think that that's even going to be a concern. The main thing is, like I've mentioned, though, is, even for the beach, the beaches and stuff like that across the East Coast, there's going to be that problem, once again, with the rip currents and the big waves and stuff like that. So just please be careful if you are going to the beach. Let's see here. Corbin says, but you never know. It could keep moving west. It could go to the U.S. That's highly unlikely. And given all the guidance that we have right now, showing the system, there's not really any support of it hitting the U.S. East Coast. So we cannot assume the worst. As of right now, it is, definitely likely going to just remain off the U.S. East Coast. Now, I will tell you this. You should obviously be ready for hurricane season. It wouldn't hurt to keep on monitoring the storm, but, we're not expecting this thing to, to make direct U.S. landfall. So, but yeah, here's the cone, y'all. Here's the cone of uncertainty. You can see we're just going to continue going northwest for a little bit. We're going to start to pull to the north here, eventually before working our way over here to the northeast. The cone is now between Bermuda and the United States East Coast, so things should, just remain off of the U.S. East Coast here overall. Now, like I mentioned, we do have another system that we need to monitor right behind Erin. This has an overall 20% chance probability of development here in the next 7 days. This is a new area that we're watching, and throughout the next 48 hours or the next, 2 days here, we do have a 0% chance of development. So, yeah, not really expecting the system to, really do anything over the next 2 days here overall. So, anyways. But yeah, so let's actually go ahead and we're going to take a look at some more models, y'all. We're going to dive into some of the main models. We're going to start off with the GFS here. So let's go ahead and hop y'all over here to that. We're still going to take a look and see what the latest GFS suggests. So obviously the GFS is a little off on the pressure here. System right now is down to 934 millibars. Currently moving west at 15 miles an hour here. The 18 UTC run has it at 974 starting, so we're getting a little bit of an off start here, but anyways, but yeah, you can see GFS does have it squeezing right between the United States East Coast and as well as Bermuda. Once again, the system is going to encounter some upper level winds, which will allow for the system here to kind of shoot its way to the east, keeping it kind of away from the U.S. East Coast. And then, of course, GFS has a secondary wave potentially rolling through here, 130 hours out. So has it going, towards the Antilles, maybe right around the 22nd or so. We're kind of pushing time a little far here, so we can't, trust this, too far. We can't go too far down in time. But yeah, no, the main thing is here is that, yes, GFS does have the system remaining between Bermuda and the U.S. East Coast, which is certainly good. And then, of course, we do need to monitor that second system. Once again, the Hurricane Center, they finally noted it, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. GFS has been actually very consistent. If we go to the previous run before that, you can can see, it's still there. 6 hours previous run before that, it's there, but it's a lot weaker. The last several runs, every time I do a frame here, this is 6 hours in the past. We're definitely seeing a lot of support there of that other system, so we'll keep an eye on it. So that's the GFS here. Looking at the moisture levels, throughout the atmosphere, the bluish green indicates a lot of moisture. The brown indicates a lot of dry air. As you know, tropical systems need a lot of moisture, but, that doesn't really seem to be much of a problem. The GFS keeps the system having a lot of moisture here. The Windfield is expected to get a lot wider here. Right now it's kind of a smaller, compact system. In which, as we progress down in time, it's expected to expand. It is expected to grow in width. At that point in time, and you could see that there's still going to be a plentiful amount of moisture here. Once it kind of gets caught up in that jet stream, it might start to engulf, a little bit of dry air, as you can see here, and kind of in the later presentation of the GFS. But, at that point in time, the main threats would be mostly over. So then we hop over to Euro here, take a look at the ECMWF. This is the 18 UTC run. This is the latest one we got here available. So looking at the latest one, keeps everything just north of Puerto Rico, which is pretty much where we're at right now, just kind of north of Puerto Rico. Moisture doesn't seem to be an issue. System, will continue to strengthen as we kind of just pass east of the Bahamas. Speaking of, Bahamas now have tropical storm watches. We're going to get into that here in a minute. Once we get through the models and stuff, we'll show you guys all the watches and everything. But yeah, and then of course, kind of taking a similar thing to the to the GFS, keeping everything just east of the U.S. mainland. I know it's a little close. It's a little iffy to see a big hurricane like that just off the U.S. East Coast. But the way the guidance has been, it does look like the system is just going to remain off the U.S. East Coast, which is good. Bermuda out there, you can see the little speck. It's very hard to tell, but Bermuda's right here. My crosshairs are. Right between there, right between the U.S. East Coast as well as Bermuda, you can see that we do have, kind of the same overall view as what the GFS did suggest. So they're in a bit of agreement there, which is definitely good. Then we hop over to CMC. Once again, like I mentioned in the past, the more models, the merrier. It's good to get more opinions here. CMC, same thing between the U.S. and Bermuda. Keeps everything away from land for the most part, which is definitely good, but still can't forget about those, coastal impacts. Still will definitely be a concern regardless. And then, of course, we have Icon. Yeah, boy, where do we even start with Icon? Icon is a very weird model. But, regarding the track, though, I tell you, Icon also agrees, keeping things just east of the U.S. here. One thing I will tell you, some of the models do show, maybe very far eastern North Carolina. Here, let's bring you guys over here real quickly. We're gonna zoom in. I guess we'll do the U.S. East Coast. That might be the best. But it does show some of the tip of North Carolina. This would be out there by areas like Nags Head, some regions out there. According to Icon, which Icon's a very interesting model, does show maybe 40 or so knots sustained. That would be in tropical storm force if this did play out. GFS, on the other hand, here too, does show, about maybe 25, 30 knots, with higher gusts, of course. Right there towards some of those areas in far eastern North Carolina, which, we're certainly going to have to look out there for. Yeah, definitely need to monitor that. The Windfield at this point in time is huge. You guys can see, this thing has a massive Windfield on it, in which, we definitely could get some pretty strong winds out there by the Carolina coast. So we can't forget about that. Also, maybe even, the GFS suggesting maybe areas out by Cape Cod getting, a little bit of gusty winds from it. I remember gusts are going to be heavier, but, definitely need to monitor that, okay? But, it's not certain. Right now there's no watches, but just we'll keep an eye on it. We'll let you guys know what happens. Euro, ECMWF, on the other hand, actually shows it a bit more aggressive, as you can kind of tell. If we look here at the run here, this is 5 a.m. on the 21st. You can actually see, let me grab a little sounding out here and look at that lower level. You can see this is a 35-knot wind barb. That would push us in the tropical storm force. That would indeed push us into tropical storm force. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, it's not just one model. It's several models that are presenting that. Let's see here. Chris says, hey, Andrew, happy Saturday, man. If models are showing a slight shift to the east, the big concern would be for those houses are oceanfront, not behind the dunes, but more on the beach. If it shifts more east, it'll go out there closer to Bermuda. Let's see here. What's up, Jared? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing good. Let's see. Fox says, Icon predicted this like 3 to 5 days ago. AI European models also showing this path. Yeah, but those models do tend to be kind of a little bit more aggressive. They might have done pretty good with this system, but they have a track record, and their record's not the best. I mean, they've had some moments. I ain't gonna lie, but nothing is nearly as bad as the NAM 3K. Nobody ever. I am telling you up and down, you better never use the NAM 3K for tracking the tropics. I will be extremely upset at you if you do. It is not a model to do. Anyways, enough of that. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned here, we could have some type of impacts here for, the Carolina coast, especially on some of those areas that are hanging out here. North Carolina does kind of just stick out there a little bit, doesn't it? So, yeah, I mean, we'll have to monitor for possible tropical storm conditions here. I mean, it's not a guarantee. A single shift to the east could actually really completely remove that threat. If it goes a little bit west, then, yeah, maybe it might be something we need to really look into. But, it's all just monitoring still. No need to buy out the stores or anything like that. We're good. So that's definitely good. Now for Bermuda, though, I've been wanting to watch Bermuda too. ECMWF does, as you can kind of see here, this is for the evening of the 21st. ECMWF does indeed show Bermuda getting, some tropical storm force winds here. This is a good 30, maybe 35 knots out there. That would put it into, I believe, that would put it right around 40 miles an hour, which would be like low-end tropical storm. So Bermuda's definitely got to look out there for that too. They're also going to have, like I said, those big waves. I mean, according to Euro here, those waves could be as big as, maybe 10 to upwards of 20 foot maximum. So, that's according to one model though. GFS on the other hand, a little bit different with timing, as you can see. GFS has it progress a little bit quicker than the Euro does. But yeah, GFS also kind of suggests it could be within the range of maybe 15 to 20 or so. So we'll see. Regardless, we do need to prepare for, big waves out here. And, if you're planning on going to the beach or anything like that, I'd highly recommend staying out of the water. Because, like we've mentioned, there's going to be that big threat for, rip currents, some coastal flooding, some, just all kinds of potential coastal concerns that we do need to still look into. And, like I said, that's not just for Bermuda, too. I mean, that's also for a lot of the U.S. coast. I mean, you can see here, I think, North Carolina has a potential at kind of grazing some of these conditions out here. Maybe some tropical storm conditions. Once again, we'll have to monitor. But, regardless, I mean, big waves out there. Once again, North Carolina just kind of sticks out there a little bit like a sore thumb. And so that's going to kind of put it a little closer to the system here. But things, the worst of it should remain well offshore, which is definitely good. But, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. Definitely be watching it. Let's see. What's up, Robbie? Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing good. Jared says surges as well. Yeah, I mean, there definitely could be some, coastal concerns, coastal flooding. Like I mentioned here with the system, I mean, the Windfield gets pretty massive. It gets pretty big. Looking at that lower level Windfield, I mean, you could see the thing is massive. I mean, this covers, look at that. That's over 10 degrees north latitude. That's like, that's a pretty big storm. That's got to at least be 600 to 800 miles or so. I mean, can't tell you exactly by this, but I know from place to place, from Virginia to Florida where I lived, I know the distance is about 800 miles, and that's about the same size. So yeah. Let's see here. Jared says nobody knows yet. Another day or so. I mean, we have guidance, and all of the guidance here for the most part suggests this thing staying away from the U.S. We can't automatically assume the worst, that it will impact the U.S. East Coast, which it won't. I mean, we'll have some limited impacts, like I mentioned, but direct landfall has pretty much been ruled out at this point. I mean, just given the fact that the models, they're all in agreement here. Once again, this is the. I know some systems in the past have kind of went against all odds and went against different models and stuff, but models have been getting better, for one, and two, it's a little bit different when you have literally all the main hurricane models. On top of that, all of the ensembles from the GEFS here, as you can see, keeping everything away from the U.S. East Coast. And then even the GEPS, another set of ensembles here. Literally not a singular member has it making landfall in the U.S. So don't stress yourselves over that. And obviously, we'll keep you updated. If anything big changes, we'll let you know. But yeah, I mean, at this point in time, it is highly unlikely. I mean, even the cone is well outside of the U.S. But like I mentioned, though, when it comes to it, we shouldn't just ignore the storm. There is still going to be some impacts across the U.S. East Coast. For the people who's just joining, we've talked about this a few times. We could definitely see some rip currents out there, which, if you don't know what a rip current is, if you're in the water, if there's a rip current, it's basically a strong current that pulls you back out to sea. And once again, a little bit of important information here is, if you are caught in a rip current and it is pulling you out, don't swim directly back to shore. Swim parallel, because if you swim directly back to shore, essentially it will just keep on pulling you back, and you're going to use up all of your energy. So just swim parallel to the shore. It's how you kind of assure the best the best probability of getting back to the shore. But just better yet, don't go out in the waters while there's rip currents. There's a lot of beaches that have flags out there that'll warn you there overall. So anyways, Jared says, is this still like 150? Top left, you guys can see in the top left of the screen, that is its current stuff right now. So it is a Cat 4. Once again, it is a Cat 4. It was a Cat 5, but it's briefly been downgraded to a Cat 4. I think it's getting ready to go right back up to Cat 5 once we get that new eye wall coming in here. But it's undergoing what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. It's basically recycling itself. But yeah, I mean, it is, and during that time, whenever there is an eye wall replacement cycle, it uses a little bit of its energy to do so, in which that can in turn lower the wind speeds of the storms, make it briefly weaker, but don't expect that to be, lasting. Don't expect that to just be like the downfall of the storm. No, because it's actually heading into still some really, really good conditions for a lot of favorable strengthening and even, strong sustainability. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, you can see where the eye is. It's not fully clear, though. I mean, it's definitely trying to, as it is undergoing that eye wall replacement cycle. That's why we briefly went down to Cat 4. But like I mentioned, I would not be surprised by tomorrow we're back at Cat 5 again. Would not be surprised. Even in the forecast here, we are expected to remain Cat 5 for a little bit here. Definitely remaining pretty strong up here until the morning of the 18th. So that's when the forecast has it getting down to Cat 4. But, who knows? I mean, I personally think, from what I've seen out here, is that there is a lot of really still good prime conditions for tropical development. Now, like we mentioned earlier, the system is going to use a lot of its energy to expand in width. So like I mentioned right now, man, I need a counter of how many times I say like I mentioned. Holy cow. It's just a big part of my vocabulary, I guess. Anyways, let's try to think of another word to say other than like I mentioned. But in the past, I mentioned that doesn't work either. Right now, the system is pretty. It's not super small, but it's compact. It is fairly compact. And as the system progresses northwest, it is expected to expand. Like I said, the Windfield is expected to get bigger. The system is going to start to grow in size. And it doing so does use a lot of its energy. So if it was going to remain a small, compact system, basically, I don't know where I'm going with this, But basically, if it remains a small, compact system and doesn't expand, it has all of its energy just for that. That's what I was trying to go with. But since it's going to expand, it's going to use a lot of its energy to do so, in which that's where we're likely going to see the system downgrade. But we'll see. We'll definitely have to see. I mean, the water's out there still extremely warm. 29, 30 degrees Celsius water, super, super warm. I mean, it's not much wind shear. All it has is just that upper level venting, which that's typical with these systems. That's not going to really act heavily against the system at all. I mean, it's just a part of the storm itself, So yeah, no wind shear really. I'll go ahead and show you guys back over to the models here. Taking a peek over here, looking back at the models, if we pull up the, let's see here, we are going to go ahead and, let's see, what was I going to bring up here? Man, I'm having a moment, y'all. Oh, yeah, the moisture. Okay, so yeah, if we look at the moisture, you can see that, the bluish green air, that indicates that we do have a pretty good amount of moisture. As it works its way into these waters here, I mean, it's still going to have a solid amount of moisture available to it, which is, definitely going to keep that system, at least sustaining itself. And, it's not really heading into any conditions that will make it weaken, per se. Once again, the wind shear, you can see just that upper level venting that we have. Very, very common with these systems here. What air goes in must go out, in which, in the lower atmosphere here in the northern hemisphere, the air gets pulled in counterclockwise, and as it goes up, and then it shoots out, and goes clockwise in the upper levels overall. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned here, I mean, it's not going to really run into any wind shear, at least not until later in its cycle. I mean, once we approach like the here, let's go to the northeast here. Actually, let's just do the full North Atlantic. Why not? But yeah, as the system works its way up here to the north, you guys can see this big jet that we have, and that's going to really kind of knock the storm further eastward for one, but also allow it to start weakening because it starts dismantling the storm. It starts kind of ripping it apart. Let's see here. Sorry, I got confused earlier. I meant west instead of east. You're good, Chris. You're good. Let's see here. Cooler water as well. So it's not heading into really any cool waters anytime soon. Let me actually go ahead and show you guys real quickly. Let's go back to the West Atlantic here. And we're gonna. I don't think GFS has it. Let's do HWRF parent, and we'll go ahead and turn on those sea surface temperatures. Okay, so we're going to load that up here. You can see, I mean, the water that it's heading into is, really a good 29, 30 degrees Celsius waters out here. I mean, we are really, 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 warm overall. So, it's actually just going to be heading into even warmer waters here. And, I mean, you can see it, it is going to be trailing a bit of, it's going to be trailing and, cooling down those waters quite a bit, that upwelling. Is going to occur, and it's going to, really kind of pull up some of those cooler waters and stuff. But, that's a big thing with this system. But, regardless, in its future, like I mentioned, 29, 30 degrees Celsius waters definitely is, going to remain in an environment where it's super, super warm. And then, like I mentioned, once again, moisture-wise, moisture doesn't seem to be an issue, really. So, I mean, it's still going to be holding in there pretty good. Dylan says, August 27th, another storm hitting Florida. Way, way, way too out to tell, Dylan. There is another system that we're monitoring. Let me go ahead and bring you guys back over here. So there is another system that we're watching here. Has an overall 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days. Next 48 hours or the next 2 days has a 0% chance. So way too far out. It is something that we need to monitor. We'll definitely keep an eye on it, and but not a lot can be said about it right now. Models are still in heavy disagreement with the system. GFS wants it to become a hurricane. Euro just wants it to be a depression. Euro also wants it going further north. GFS wants it going further west. It's hard to tell right now. It's just too early to tell. Chris says, huge W for the jet stream that's saving us from air. That's true. It's definitely helping, that's for sure. Let's see here. Could Erin increase its own outflow bubble that modifies surrounding environmental shear after it gets large enough? So, the system, a lot of that venting is going to be that upper level shear. And so if that's going to be a problem for the storm itself, it will not really be an issue for the storm itself. Yeah, a lot of that shear is going to be from those upper levels, that clockwise upper level outflow that we typically do see. So I don't think so. No. Let's see. Do I think Outer Banks will have evacuations this coming week? No. Definitely not. They would not evacuate even for tropical storm conditions, which, like we mentioned though, we've been talking about it, cannot rule out the possibility here of, some impacts across like North Carolina. It's still not for sure. We'll go ahead and hop you guys back over here to the models. Still not for sure, but there has been, a handful of models that does kind of suggest that maybe North Carolina could have some impacts. I mean, HWRF obviously does not really suggest that here. We have like GFS on the other hand. GFS did have it getting a little bit closer. This is about 25 knots. That would be under tropical storm force here. Let's pull up the Western Atlantic view here. Yeah, so the 18 UTC, the 10-meter wind speeds, it just keeps everything just under 30 knots, so really wouldn't be anything tropical storm-related. But, there has been a few models that did support it. Here's Euro, on the other hand. Yeah, the European ECMWF here. Let's see here. The Euro also does have it just off the coast here. I mean, if it shifts a little bit west, I would not be surprised. Let's see here. The models have changed a bit today. Yeah, they're still going to be changing a little bit here and there, of course. But I think the models have, at this point in time, came to a pretty good understanding. Ashley, coming in with a $2 super chat, my friend. Ashley, thank you so much for that. Saying Georgia here, praying it doesn't shift out the coast. Yeah, or shift in the coast. I hope it doesn't. Hopefully it just stays out and, away from everybody, which it looks like it will. It definitely will. Or I wouldn't say definitely. It's expected to. And there's no guidance showing it hitting the United States. So there's currently no threat of landfall in the United States. But, we'll keep you guys updated. But, yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, all spaghetti models, all members of the GEFS, the GE, what was the other model we looked at? We looked at the, let's see here. So we looked at the main models, of course, the GEPS and the GFS, or the GEFS. So we looked at all those, and there was not a singular member out of all of those models that had it hitting the United States. So at this point in time, that's not really expected to occur, so we don't got to worry about that. However, like I mentioned, I mean, there still is a good possibility here, that we're going to have some it's basically started at this point. But, yeah, across the U.S. East Coast, we're going to have a concern for, some rip currents, of course, and, some strong some big waves, essentially. So, anyways, hopping back over here, though, let's go ahead and do a little bit more of a deeper dive into the models here. Once again, for the people just joining us, we're going to go ahead and talk about what's going on here. So, yes, there could be some impacts across the United States. The coastal areas, if you're going to the beach anytime soon, I would recommend not getting in the water. Don't go out in the water because, there's going to be some strong rip currents and some big waves and stuff like that, so keep that in mind. But anyways, looking at those lower dynamics here, looking at the waves overall, I mean, you can see as we work our way down in time, really like the GFS really shows those waves starting to get pretty heavy right around the 18th or so. So we're going to have to look out there for that. But yeah, I mean, the waves definitely get pretty big, according to not just the GFS, but a lot of the other models too. Just off of the, North Carolina coast here, I mean, we could have, a good maybe 10 to upwards of 20-foot waves, well out to sea there is a possibility. Even Florida coast, the South Carolina coast, definitely above 5 to, 10 foot or so could be quite possible. I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to have some pretty big concerns out there with the waves. I mean, even across, the U.S. Northeast coast here as well. Definitely could be seeing quite a bit of big waves. And, of course, for Bermuda as well. I mean, this, a system of this strength and, this size that it's expected to get to, you're going to really notice we're going to have a lot of water moving around, essentially. And so, that's going to be the main concern for the United States is, pretty much the U.S. East Coast in general, just those big waves, crashing ashore. And once again, it looks like North Carolina's coast is going to kind of get it a little bit worse. Once again, this is not just GFS. If you take a look at the Euro here, too, believe it or not, Euro, I believe, actually showed it a little bit more severe. Here's the Euro model. I mean, you can see just off the coast here, we're good, 15, upwards of maybe 20 foot or more. Definitely going to be seeing some pretty, pretty solid, waves out there overall. But anyways, so that is that. That is what we're looking out there for. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. We'll be more than happy to help y'all. But yeah, so that's kind of the main thing though, is just across the U.S. East Coast we got to watch out for that. Now with those big waves, we are going to be seeing the potential out there for some rip currents and everything like that. So we'll definitely look into that as well. Let's see here. We stayed during Helene. It was scary, and I had to rescue 5 baby kittens out in the tree during a peak of 80 miles an hour. Aw, well, I'm glad you saved them. I'm glad you're okay though. Helene was bad. It was pretty bad. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just glad you're okay. And that's awesome of you. I'm glad you could help them. But anyways, folks, like I mentioned, it's not just a GFS, it's not just the Euro either. It's pretty consistent at this point. So, and then another thing, like we've mentioned too, once again, is here we're gonna hop down to those lower level winds here. Is that we could be dealing with possible tropical storm conditions on the far eastern side of North Carolina out there. Once again, this includes areas kind of out there by Nags Head, and some of those regions out there could be seeing maybe some low end tropical storm forced conditions out there. It's not guaranteed. It's definitely not guaranteed yet. But yeah, definitely some of those strong winds could definitely get pretty close, to coastal North Carolina here, which we're going to have to look out for. But just tropical storm. It's not going to be any hurricane or anything like that. Hurricane force stuff. So that's good. Same thing for Bermuda too. This is the GFS model. This is for the 20th. You guys can see for the evening. We have Bermuda here suggesting a good 30 knots or so. Good 30 knots of sustained winds. Remember, gusts are going to be a little bit higher too. Going to be a little bit higher. But it could be near that tropical storm force. And once again, the wind field of this thing is enormous. Now switching things up here, looking at Euro. Once again, Euro was kind of suggesting that the system was going to be a little bit further behind. GFS kind of projected the system, being over quicker and stuff. Euro, on the other hand, here, let's see here. So Euro, on the other hand, has it falling back a little bit in time. But you know what? Still pretty similar. I mean, the U.S. East Coast out there in, in North Carolina, grabbing a little sounding here. You can see that lower level there. It's about 35 knots. So that's... that's definitely basically low-end tropical storm force here. I mean, Euro suggests that as well. Same thing for Bermuda out here. This is for the 21st here. This is a 35 knot wind barb as well, which 35 knots, believe that's right at, let's see here, 35 is 40 miles an hour. So that would be right at low-end tropical storm force here. So I wouldn't be surprised if models continue trending what they're doing. If that doesn't change, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they add a watch or so for, possibly Bermuda. We'll have to see about eastern North Carolina, the coastal regions up here. We'll just have to see. It's not guaranteed. But, at this point in time, we're probably going to see some pretty gusty winds out there regardless. We're going to see a pretty good amount of gusty winds and stuff. But, yeah. Let's see here. Karen says, any chances of Connecticut getting hit directly? No, because we're going to have the strong upper-level jet here kind of take over here, this jet stream here. Let me pull this up here. Actually, yeah. So you can see as the system works up, you can see we do have this jet stream overhead. That's going to kind of knock it away from the U.S. Northeast coast here. So Anyways, what are the chances of landfall? Is it 5% chance or less landfall? I give it a 5% chance. Stay safe, stream. So it's definitely heavily unlikely. I can't give you a full-on percentage, as there's no way really to calculate that. But currently based off of the models and stuff, I'd say it's near zero. Just because. I mean, once again, the models that we have here. I mean, first of all, we'll go ahead and start with the main spaghetti models. The one everyone knows and loves. The main spaghetti keeps everything away from the U.S. East Coast here. I mean, these are the main top-notch models, for tracking and forecasting hurricanes. Once again, there's Bermuda here. I mean, here's the U.S. East Coast and all. It does keep everything just between Bermuda and the U.S. And those are the main models. These are several different models, and they all suggest that same thing. They're pretty close in agreement. Once again, the GEFS ensembles. This is one model with a bunch of what we call members, showing different potential paths, and even all of those, keep it away from the U.S. Not a singular member has it hitting the United States. And then lastly, I mean, here's even more model support for you. Here's the GEPS ensembles. You can see more of them. Not even a singular one has it hitting the U.S. East Coast. So the odds of this, I'd say, is less than 5%. There's no way of me giving you an exact percentage, but based off of things right now, there is literally not even a singular member that supports it hitting the United States East Coast directly, which at this point in time, that is heavily, heavily unlikely. And I really don't think it will, personally. So we don't really got to worry about a full direct landfall in the United States. The system is going to be mostly a fish storm, but considering the size of the system, it's going to have still some impacts, across like Bermuda and, even the U.S. East Coast here, once again, with the rip currents and the swelling and, once again, maybe even some strong winds just off the coast of like North Carolina we're going to have to look out for. Let's see here. How do millibars increase from the temperature in the water, or like a meso? Inflow, I'm not good at her. Huh? So millibars, as you know, is pressure. And as you know, lower the millibar is, the stronger the storm. Higher the millibar is, the higher the pressure, the weaker the storm is, essentially. There is no direct correlation between temperature and water and millibars, but typically you want everything above 26 Celsius for storms to sustain themselves. So if you have those sea surface temperatures of 26 Celsius or greater, storms will be allowed to strengthen and sustain themselves, given other conditions are met, like no wind shear and good amounts of moisture. And anything below like 25 and below, which this system started out in some decently cool waters and it didn't really pick off too crazily. That's about all I can really tell you. I'm not sure if I fully understand your question, though, completely. But anyways. Karen says, thank you. Yeah, no problem at all. Let's see here. This thing isn't curving. Why, you don't think it will, Ethan? I mean, right now, the eye is, still within the cone. I mean, I did see earlier that there is the cones. It kept going out of the eye. I mean, yeah, it's going to wobble a bit. These systems are never going to be perfectly linear. They're never going to be perfectly linear. They're going to wobble, and then they move a little bit left. Oh my gosh, it's going to be completely different. No. I mean, come on, dude. I'm not getting on you, man. I hope you know that. I'm just saying, people in general, they're like, it's going to be a totally different outcome. So, we'll see, but, just given everything, it's eventually going to curve. Let's see here. Jared says, I know it's a confusing question. I know it's a confusing question. Sorry, but thanks. No, you're good. Ashley, welcome to Tropical Storm Club, my friend. That's really sweet of you, Ashley. Thank you. Y'all in chat, please give Ashley a big thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's see. Ethan says it's not curving right now. I mean, yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty much just going west. I mean, it is still moving west at 15. Top left, you guys can see the current set where the storm is. Like I mentioned, right now it's undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle, which it was a Category 5 earlier, as you guys knew. It sustained at 160. We've dropped 10-mile-an-hour sustained because of this eye wall replacement cycle that we're dealing with here. Basically, the storm is using some of its energy to kind of, recycle itself. It's very common in tropical cyclones. It happens with almost every single hurricane that we typically have. Most of them. But, but given the future conditions, sea surface temperatures, moisture levels, kinematic wind shear, essentially, it's just going to continue to be in an environment where it can easily sustain itself and even strengthen. But like we've mentioned here, once the system continues moving, to the west here, eventually starting to turn northwest, it is going to start to get bigger. The wind field is actually going to start to expand. It's not going to keep all of its, energy tight and compact like it is now. It's going to start to expand that wind field. And doing so, it's going to use a lot of its energy. And that's why it's going to downgrade. That's why it's kind of forecasted to downgrade. Despite the conditions still being heavily favorable for strengthening, like I mentioned, it takes a lot of energy in a system to expand its wind field here. So, we'll have to, we'll definitely have to see. Forrest says, I don't know, it keeps tracking west, almost no northward track. Even 100 miles can mean the difference between life or death at this level. Like I mentioned before, you're going to have systems that are going to wobble. And, they're gonna go further some way. Sometimes it can happen. Absolutely. But, at this point in time, given all the models we know, all current observations, all the flights we've done in the storm, we know enough information to know what it's going to do. So I have to disagree with you there. Once again, like I've mentioned, these systems are never perfectly linear, meaning they never follow a complete straight path. They're going to go further west. They're going to go further east, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're going to be wobbling a bit. They're going to go different directions at different times and everything like that. So, they're never going to be perfectly straight, which we're going to have to keep an eye on. But, it actually, it did move a little bit further to the north here. If it would have continued going west, it would have been a lot closer to Puerto Rico by now, but it's already kind of pulling north here. If you look at it, it already is kind of moving northwest. Look at it. If you look real closely, you can actually see, it is kind of following northwest. Despite still mostly going westward, considering its westward movement, it is actually slightly going west. If it was going completely west right now, it would be doing this. And it is obviously curving up a little bit. So it's on track. It's on track. Ashley, it's not going to be a Cat 6. There's a lot of people on TikTok. Never trust anything weather-related on TikTok. It's gotten so bad, dude. No, there's no Category 6. No, there's not going to be a Category 6. Anything above 157 sustained or greater is considered Cat 5. It can be 300 miles an hour for all who cares. It's still a Category 5. And no, it's not really possible for a system to get that strong. Just saying. But no Cat 6. Literally anything 157 greater, it is Cat 5. No matter how strong it gets, it will still be Cat 5. It's not a Cat 6. That's just clickbait titles. That's just people being stupid. It really is. Let's see. I think he was asking, how does the pressure continue to drop in relation to the water temperatures? That does make a little bit more sense. But yeah, like I mentioned though, with the waters 100 or 100, where did I get 100 from? With the waters 26 degrees Celsius or greater, that's where we really see sustainability, if other conditions are met or even strengthening. Anything below that, tropical systems tend to have a harder time developing in. And sometimes it can't even develop at all because of those cooler temperatures. But yeah. Being in those warmer waters, and it's not 100% a direct correlation though. Just for sea surface temperatures, you also got once again moisture levels throughout the atmosphere. You also got kinematics, wind shear, if it's acting against the storm, if it's kind of killing off the storm or whatnot. It's not solely just on sea surface temperatures, and there's no direct correlation, but there is an indirect correlation, meaning that the warmer the temperatures are, eventually, if all other conditions are correct, the system can strengthen. Does that make sense? But yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Jared, it's rough, dude. There's so many people spreading misinformation, and you know what? It really bothers me that people are doing this and they're posting false model runs. It makes people like me who actually genuinely try to help you guys out and genuinely care about the weather without hyping it up or making anything up about it. It makes people like me look bad, and I hate that. It's so stupid. And then meanwhile, they're over here, just literally making up fake news, scaring people, and racking up money off of it. It's so wrong, dude. It's so wrong. Anyways, I've been ranting a lot about that in the last several streams. I'm going to go ahead and cut it there, but I'm very disappointed in you people who've done that. Very, very disappointed. See, the Safford-Simpson scale goes up to a Category 5. Yeah, so 157 plus, no matter if it's like 200 or anything like that. I mean, we've had storms above 200, like Patricia. Hurricane Patricia was like, I think, 215 sustained at one point. I think that's the strongest, or one of the strongest hurricanes ever, in terms of wind speeds. It was still a Cat 5, despite it being, like 50 miles an hour greater than what it is. So, anyways. Jared says, yeah, it's all the time, man. It never stops. I'm a contractor, so it's the same thing when people rip people off. Yeah, it's similar. I get it. It's just, it's so sad people can be that way. All right, anyways, y'all, we're going to hop back to models. We're going to take a look back at models and stuff. Should be getting that new update here soon, if we haven't already. Did we already get our new 11 o'clock update? Here, let me pull up an HC. Did they not change anything? 11. Oh, wow. Y'all, it weakened even more. Here, let me bring you guys over here real quickly. They now have it down to 140 sustained. So we're now down to 140 sustained here. Pressure down to 937. Pressure's gone up a little bit. Moving west-northwest. So remember how it was moving west here? It's now moving west-northwest. See, so Category 4 hurricane undergoing structural changes. That eye wall replacement cycle we were talking about here. Heavy rains and gusty winds occurring across Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands here. Did they change anything on the cone here? One thing I did not mention yet, though, which I was going to, but I forgot to. Y'all in southeastern Bahamas. Here, let's use the interactive one so I can kind of show you. So the southeastern Bahamas now has some tropical storm watches. We did have some tropical storm watches out there near the Virgin Islands or just east a while ago, but they canceled those because they did not meet the criteria. But yeah, I mean, if we look at it here, actually, there's still a few of them left, but those are probably going to be canceled soon. A few of let's see here, the Calicos and the Turks here, the Turks and the Calicos Islands, we now have tropical storm watches in effect. Which, remember, tropical storm watches means that, hey, tropical storm conditions are possible down in time. They're not necessarily guaranteed. If it was a warning, it would be more of, tropical storm warnings it would be more of tropical storm conditions is expected. But the watches means it's possible, not guaranteed. Just monitor the weather, just keep an eye on it. Still nothing for Bermuda. It's still a little early to tell here. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll have to continue watching Bermuda as well as the U.S. East Coast out there by North Carolina. I don't think it's impossible. Given some of the model guidance here, which we're getting ready to look back into, I wouldn't say it's impossible because, some of the models, I mean, a handful of them, Euro, GFS included, suggest like 35, maybe upwards of 40 knot sustained winds out here just off the U.S. East Coast here of, North Carolina. That's tropical storm conditions. So if that continues to hold, if the system tracks a little bit further west in the cone, I mean, shoot. The cone is not where the effects are going to be felt. I want you guys to remember that. The cone is where the center of the storm could go. So, I mean, at far westerly trajectory while still being in the cone could easily bring some of those tropical storm force winds to eastern North Carolina. Or, otherwise, the system could do a hard right turn, getting right next to Bermuda, which could give Bermuda a big concern. The cone of uncertainty is a big question mark. Basically, the center of the storm could go anywhere inside of this cone here. Let's see here. If Erin gets caught beneath, in between both of those high pressure systems, could it stall next to the East Coast? No, it's not, because we have that upper level, or we have that jet stream that's going to kind of knock it far to the right, or far to the east here, I should say. So no. Let's see here. Dayton says, so yeah, it's going to re-rapid intensify and go against their predictions. Well, I believe it will intensify. I do. Because there's really no limitations to the waters that it's heading into. I mean, out here, we have plenty, even warmer waters, actually. Right now, it's in like 28, 29 Celsius waters. It's going to track in the 29, 30 degrees Celsius waters, for one. Two, there's not much lack of moisture. System's still going to have plenty enough moisture to sustain itself and even potentially strengthen. And also kinematics. The only thing that we have remotely strong to strong wind shear is the system itself, that upper level venting that we're dealing with. But like we mentioned, though, I think it's going to be limited to how strong it gets because of the fact of how wide it's eventually going to get. Like I mentioned, right now, the system's, fairly compact, fairly small. It's not a really large hurricane by any means, but it's a good size. But in the models, the system has, or the models have the system getting bigger. It pulls in some more moisture. Those waters out there are super warm. Absorbing all that heat, which tropical cyclones need that heat. The heat keeps them going. Helps fuels them. But yeah, it's still going to be rolling into some very, very high, conducive, really, really conducive environment. Really, really, potent environment, essentially. So, we'll have to see. Let's see. Roadster says eyewall replacements are common in these high-end hurricanes. Most likely, Erin will expand Windfield. Yeah. So that's what's going on. Earlier today, guys, it was a Category 5, yes. We were sustained at 160. Now we're down to 140. You can see the top left, it finally updated. Still a Category 4. But the reason it did weaken is not because the conditions it's in right now is unfavorable. No. It did that because it's trying to regroup itself. It's trying to get a hold of itself better. I mentioned this earlier in the stream. It's like if you have, some, like snakes, for example, they shed. I consider this a hurricane shedding and getting prepared for its new coat, its new skin. That's kind of what's going on here with the tropical cyclone. This happens. And during that process, and, while it does, I believe even snakes do the same thing. They use energy to shed. That's what the system's doing. It's using energy to regroup itself and make itself better, essentially. Just reorganizing and getting itself back together. But yeah, so that's what it's doing, and in the process, it is using its energy to do so, which in turn lowers the wind speed because it is weakening a bit. Pressure does increase a little bit. The conditions out here is absolutely still favorable for development here, or strengthening essentially, and it will continue so. As we continue northwest, even into these waters, super super warm. But, instead of using its energy to keep its same size and everything like that, it's going to use its energy to get bigger. The wind field's going to get a lot larger than it is now. The system's going to get a lot bigger. It's going to use a lot more energy to spread out over larger distances, which that's going to kind of keep its strength a little bit lower. Let's see here. Year 15 when Katrina hit the state of Louisiana. This one size looks similar to Katrina and Rita. Yeah, Katrina was a pretty bad storm. Katrina's certainly one to remember. Was it Katrina 05, if I'm not mistaken? 04 and 05 were pretty aggressive hurricane seasons. Let's see, the square mileage of the hurricane is supposed to greatly increase after the eyewall replacement is done. Over time, yes, absolutely. It is expected to, the square mileage of the storm, yes, it is expected to increase quite a bit. Hopping back over to models here, I'm going to show you guys kind of what they suggest. Once again, bringing up the HWRF, the HERF model. But yeah, hopping over here to HWRF here, you can see, right where it's at right now. It's a fairly compact little storm here. I mean, it's a mighty but compact little system. And as we progress our way down in time, you notice, like I said, the Windfield starts to get a lot bigger. I mean, you notice how much bigger it gets. Some models here suggest it getting really big. Like, once again, if we take a look here over at the eastern United States here, you can see the GFS, I mean, really has that system getting quite large here. Let's see. 1 months. It's the worst thing I've seen. Harvey, Katrina, no joke compared to Harvey. Harvey was really bad too. Harvey hit Houston area, didn't it? Eastern Texas. Hurricane Center's like, yeah, we know you're focusing on Erin, but there's another development area right where Erin came from. Yeah, there is. There is definitely another system we need to monitor. However, right now the guidance is very iffy. GFS wants the system a lot stronger and further west. Euro wants it a lot weaker and further north. Complete opposites. There's so much disagreement right now. And, this system's not an imminent threat right now. But, we definitely do need to keep an eye out there for it. Let's see here. Carrot says, how strong do I think the winds could get after the eyeball replacement? Well, it ain't replacing no eyeballs. It's hard to say, really. It really is. I mean, we didn't really expect the system to blow up to its strength that it did. That's a really good question. And we're just going to have to see. I mean, it's currently in the forecast not expected to get back up to Cat 5, but I think it has potential. I do. But like I mentioned, it depends on when it starts using that energy to expand itself. It uses a lot of its energy to grow its wind field and stuff like that. That's going to really kind of prevent that. Let's see here. Is it possible they're wrong and it makes landfall possible? Extremely unlikely, less than 2%, I'd say. I mean, there's no way of me telling an exact percentage, but literally that would go against every single model out there right now, and that is extremely unlikely. I mean, very unlikely. Once again, first of all, this is the main hurricane models. Not a singular one shows it hitting the U.S. East Coast here. I mean, you can see the median here, the line of best fit has it going, just still well west of Bermuda, well east of the U.S. East Coast, just in between, keeping things at a safe, fairly safe distance. And then, of course, you have the GFS or the GEFS ensembles, just a singular model with a bunch of what we call members. And you can see these members here, they are not a singular one has it hitting the U.S. East Coast here. So, with that being said here, overall, I mean, not a singular one does show that. Then lastly, we have another set of models here. This is the GEPS. Let's see here. The GEPS here also shows not a singular one. We have that one ensemble that gets that one member that gets fairly close, but, yeah, not expecting any landfall in the U.S. That would have to go against every single model right now. It's not going to happen. No, it's just going to remain east. Anyways. Let's see here. Jesse. I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I could do that. Could the models be wrong? Yeah, I mean, yeah, not every single model's right, and a lot of times they are wrong, but collectively together, it's pretty hard for them all to be wrong at once. So, let's see, there is a relation between water temps and the difference of highs feeding into African low wave to answer why the pressure continuing to drop and how hurricanes form. Gotcha. Brandon says, could this shift west and hit North or South Carolina? So that is fairly unlikely. For a direct landfall, no, we're not expecting it. However, there will definitely be impacts across coastal North Carolina. Yes. First of all, as it is for a lot of, kind of how it is for a lot of the U.S. East Coast in general. Here, let's hop you guys back over here real quickly, back to the models. But you know how it is for a lot of us here. There's going to be quite a bit of waves here. Let's hop our way over here to the eastern U.S. view. We'll go ahead and pop over to the lower dynamics and our wave height here. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to have some pretty heavy impacts here with the waves. Not just across like North Carolina, but also much of the U.S. East Coast here. I mean, we're going to have a pretty good amount of waves. I mean, also for areas out by Bermuda. Bermuda's a little hard to see. You can see it right there. My crosshairs are. It's so hard to see. If you look real closely, there's Bermuda. But yeah, between the U.S. East Coast here, yeah, we're likely definitely going to see some pretty big waves out here. Absolutely. Out there by the Florida coast, according to GFS. Now, this is a single model run. Don't take it too serious, but get an idea off of it. We could see maybe upwards of 10 foot or so. Just off the East Coast. We'll have to see. The models. I will tell you this. I've been fairly consistent in North Carolina getting some pretty big waves. The GFS is the 18 UTC run, the current run that we have now, does suggest that we could see some waves off the coast here, possibly above 15 foot. Those are some pretty aggressive waves, and stuff like that's going to be a concern. Maybe some coastal flooding concerns, as well as rip currents. Once again, if you guys don't know what a rip current is, like I mentioned, it's say you're in the water. The rip currents is a strong current that pulls back out to sea. So if you're out there in the water, it can actually pull you out further into the ocean, no matter how hard you swim. So if you swim directly to the coast, the currents are going to overpower you. And that's why it's very important for you guys to know. First of all, don't put yourself in this situation. I would not recommend going to the beach. Okay, it's going to pull you out. The first thing you do is do not swim directly back where you came from. Do not swim directly back to shore. You got to go parallel, because if you swim directly back to shore, it's just going to keep pulling you back, and you're going to use up all of your energy trying to get back to the coast, when that rip current is just going to keep on pulling you back, and it will overpower you. So that's why, just don't give it a chance. Definitely don't give it a chance here, to do any of that. But if you do get caught up in one, swim parallel to the coast. It's very important. Keep that in mind. What's up, Sydney? Good to see you, my friend. Let's see here. If the Windfields expand as much as they potentially could, there could be a lot of rain. Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be spread out for, over quite a large distance. Absolutely. With the system expanding, using its energy not just solely in strength, but also just in size. That will definitely allow for, the rain field to get a lot bigger too. Absolutely. Let's see here. Do I think that Bermuda will feel any significant winds since Erin is huge? So, as of now, not anything hurricane related, or not anything hurricane force from what we see as of now. Now, you guys are just outside the cone. If this thing suddenly decides it wants to take a sharp right turn, it could definitely bring some pretty nasty winds out there, but it's not really expected at this current moment. However, let me go ahead and show you this real quickly. So this is the GFS model. This is the 18 UTC run that we have available. So there's Bermuda in all its glory, that little dot you see out there. So that's Bermuda. So later down in the model, you can see how, we could start to roll into, maybe some tropical storm force winds here. According to this model, remember, this is a singular model run. We can't trust this thing too in depth. We can get an idea based off of what it suggests, but we can never fully trust it for what it exactly is, okay? But yeah, the GFS here, you can see, does show, we'll go and grab a little sounding here. This is for the morning of the 21st. And you can see if we look at that lower level kinematic here, you can see we are talking, there's 3 big lines and a half line. So that's 35 knots. That would push us to 40 miles an hour, which would be indeed lower end tropical storm. So GFS does suggest some low-end tropical storm force winds being a good possibility. Now, this could get a little gusty towards the North Carolina coast. Not quite tropical storm force according to GFS on the latest run here. Previous model run before that actually showed it a little bit closer to Bermuda, as you can see. That's the previous run there. This is the new run. You can see there has been a little bit of a shift to the west here. If that shift continues, North Carolina could get some pretty gusty winds. I mean, certainly is possible. If we go over the last several GFS runs, you can see, so this was like 5 or 6 models back. As we progress, so each frame is 6 hours ahead of time, or 6, hours between the models. This is just a new model here every time. But the newest models, trending a little bit further to the west here lately. We'll just have to see how close it gets. Definitely have to see how close it gets. Now, remember, it's important that we not just look at one model or a singular model run. That's why we looked at other model runs as well. It's important that we look at all the models, or most of the models, at least to get the most amount of information as possible. And what we can do essentially is, look at what they agree on, look at what they disagree on. Okay, what they disagree on, throw it away. Well, just throw it in the trash. What they agree on, keep that, because that's valuable information. If they agree on something, that is saying that this is a good possibility of happening. Anyways, but yeah, so it's important. So let's go and take a look at Euro. Now, European model, the ECMWF, arguably known to be one of the most accurate models out there. But, every model has its ups and downs, I will say. But looking at the Euro here, I mean, we do have, a little bit of strong winds possibly working its way out there by Bermuda. This model also suggests, maybe this shows 30 knots, which that would be, I believe, just sub-tropical storm force here. But still, definitely could get some gusty winds, maybe upwards of tropical storm force. We'll have to see. Out there by, the Carolina coast here, too. We do have a 35-knot wind barb there. That would put us in minimal tropical storm. So between Bermuda, the far area out here by, like, Nag's Head, the far little nose here, I don't know exactly what you would call this. I'm not from North Carolina. But this little end here, that's kind of sticking out. That area, we need to watch both of those areas here, Regardless, though, like we mentioned here once again, the wave height here with this system, oops, that's not the wave height. The wave height with the system here is going to be quite large. This thing, because it's growing big in size, is also going to be, moving around a lot of water. With a big system as strong as it is and as big as it is, it's really going to be moving a lot of water around. And some of the heaviest of it does appear to be out here by North Carolina, as you can actually tell. ECMWF does suggest, just off the coast, nearly 20-foot waves, but more realistically near the coastlines here would be about 15 or so foot. It's hard to tell exactly. The resolution is not the greatest, but regardless, though, really, really big waves out there. So, traveling out there would be a little bit difficult to be boating around and stuff. So I wouldn't really recommend it, especially for smaller craft. Not a good idea. But you can see though the waves. They're going to impact a lot of the U.S. East Coast here. It shows like peak impact here, like for the evening of the 20th. You could see at this point, a lot of those waves are really crashing in across a lot of the U.S. East Coast here. Just the worst of it though, just offshore. And then once again, Bermuda's right here. You can see, barely. But yeah, a lot of the worst of it just remains offshore here. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Keep you guys up to date. Let's see. The Outer Banks should be weather aware for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, we do need you guys out there to definitely monitor. We'll definitely keep an eye on eastern North Carolina. I think some impacts are possible for sure. Just depends, once again, how big the system is, how strong it is, how far west it goes. Those are all factors that determine its overall outcome. So there is a lot of things. But anyways, folks, well, that's about that. Let's go ahead and hop away in the HWRF here, the HERF model. Pretty much everything we touched up on. The system is just relatively small and fairly compact here overall. And so basically we work our way down in time, and as we go our way further to the northwest here, the system, you can see the Windfield does get a lot bigger here. The system does become quite large, really using a lot of its strength to just get a lot bigger. Everything should remain mostly east of North Carolina here, at least convection wise. Let's see here. Look at the lower level winds. I don't think it goes out that far. No. Or I can't see that far anyways. Here, let me do the parent model. That might be a little bit better here. Yeah. HWRF parent does keep it fairly far away from North Carolina here. This is the 18 UTC. Yeah, HWRF does kind of keep the Windfield a little bit smaller, as you can kind of tell. Hald says it looks like it's hitting Florida a little bit. No. Nah, it's not going to hit Florida. But Florida will have some potential impacts on the coastal areas, like we mentioned here. Once again, those waves out there, we could have some pretty decent-sized waves and some rip currents. But other than that, no, Florida's not going to really see anything big. So, anyways, what's up, Jeremy? Saying hello from Waxhaw, North Carolina. What's up, my friend? Good to see ya. Bye. Why are you spamming, dude? But good to see you, Jeremy. Hope you're doing good, my friend. Hope you are doing well. But yeah, so the HWRF does have that a lot smaller than some of these other models. Let's see the HAFSA. It's good to look at a lot of different models here. HAFSA, okay. So yeah, so the HAFSA does have it getting a little bit bigger. It does put, let's see here. Oh, that's a 40 knot wind barb. Look at that. So that would be tropical storm force, according to HAFSA model. Keeps actually Bermuda just outside of those tropical storm force winds overall, but yeah, keeps it gets North Carolina fairly close to those overall. I don't think it shows wave height, unfortunately. And then of course works its way further off to the northeast here. That jet stream is going to keep it away from a lot of the northeast, which is good. But yeah, the HFSA does show possibly far eastern. North Carolina maybe getting that tropical storm force winds. We'll see. What about HFSB? HFSB model, let's see, suggests about 35 knots, so that would be minimal tropical storm. Certainly possible. Certainly possible. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed at this moment, but it is a possibility. So we'll definitely have to see. Let's see here. Altar, thank you so much, dude, for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for the support. Saying, do I think the Bahamas will get impacted? Yes. So the Bahamas are indeed going to get some forms of impact. We do have that potential. Some of the models here, let's zoom in a little bit further. Let's do HWRF here. HWRF keeps a lot of the tropical storm force winds away from you guys. However, I will mention this. If we hop on back over here to this, we do actually have some tropical storm watches in effect for the Turks and the Calicos Islands. So, once again, you may or may not know what a tropical storm is if you live out here. Tropical storm watch does not guarantee tropical storm conditions. It just means they're possible and the area needs to be monitored for potential tropical, storm activity. So it's a watch right now. We do have a little bit. The system, though, is expected to remain just east of the Bahamas. We're not going to see any hurricane activity in the Bahamas. One thing we will likely see, though, is also a lot of big waves out there. Hopping over to models here. Once again, we'll go ahead and bring y'all back over here for a minute. Let's take a look at the GFS once again. We'll go ahead and pull up the Western Atlantic view. So, looking at the lower dynamics here, you can see, so a lot of Bahamas, you can see, are going to see possibly a good 10 to maybe 15-foot waves out there for some of those southern islands here. For a lot of the islands, a good at least, 5 to 10-foot waves or more, potentially, So, yeah, definitely got to look out there for that. So definitely that is going to be a concern, some big waves, as well as rip currents. If you know what a rip current is, once again, stay away from waters if there's a rip current risk, which a lot of the U.S. East Coast will be under. Same thing for Bahamas as the system pulls through. Strong rip currents, that water pulling back into the ocean is strong enough to pull you with it. And if you're caught in a rip current, once again, do not swim directly to the shore. Do not swim parallel to the shore at a slight angle. Because if you swim directly at it, it's just going to pull you back immediately. So swim parallel to the shore here. Just don't swim, directly back to where you came from, essentially. But yeah, Altar, we are going to see some potential impacts here. We're going to have to monitor tropical storm conditions here. I mean, we do have those watches in effect for some of those southern islands here. I mean, you can see the HAFS-A model, for those islands out there here for the Turks and the Calicos. You can actually see it does have about 45 knot wind barbs here, which that's a 30 knot wind barb there. But I do see a couple of 45s, which that is overall going to be near tropical storm force. So that explains why we have those watches. But most of that should just be here. Most of that should just be to the east overall. Could I pull up Hurricane Hugo? I can, if you'd like me to. And a lot of you guys have been mentioning Hugo. Let's see. See if we can pull up on Hugo. Now, you got to remember, not all storms are the same. And if one storm looks like another, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to exactly play out that way. Yeah, so Hugo hit South Carolina, all right? This system is highly unlikely to do that. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I'll go ahead and show you guys the track of Hugo, but I'm not comparing this to Hugo at all. So from me, saying it right now, disclaimer, I'm not comparing this storm to Hugo, but this is only for your educational purpose if you wanted to look at it. This was Hugo. Hugo did impact South Carolina. It did have a fairly similar path. I mean, it actually went a little bit further south than the system did. But remember, not every same detail is the exact same as it was for Hugo. So, no. While it kind of looks a little similar in some aspects, they're two different storms. And what we're forecasting now, there is no imminent threat for a landfall in the Carolinas. Okay? Anyways. Altar, coming in with another 2, my friend. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Altar coming in with another $2 super chat saying, okay, thanks for the update. Yeah, no problem, dude. I got you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Storms have their own personality. They do. They do. And you got to remember, not every little microphysics is the exact same as it was per every storm. Each storm is different. Literally different. There is never going to be a singular storm, no matter how close they look, that is exactly the same. Okay? Because it's not just the system itself, it's the other systems around the system as well. Does that make sense? So different highs, different strength, different size, different position are in different places per storm, per different storm. So that's what I'm saying. The atmosphere is never going to fully re-replicate itself again. It's completely random, essentially. When's the next update? So they do it every 6 hours, so it should be 5 a.m. We're not going to be live during that. 5 a.m. Oh, shoot, that's a while out. Absolutely. But guys, if you haven't already, consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button if you're new. It'd be greatly appreciated. That way we can just keep you guys up to date, everything. I promise I'm not going to hype anything. I'm not going to make any false claims. Everything I say here is truthful and is real, which I really appreciate y'all joining us. It's greatly appreciated. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to let me know. Jessica says, thanks for entertaining me. Appreciate it. Yeah, of course. No problem. Can I explain the Z models and the timing? Do you mean like the Zulu time? I'm assuming. So 00 UTC, that would be 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 06 UTC would be what? 2 p.m. or sorry, 2 a.m. Eastern. Just look up a chart. I'm not going to go through the entire time list, but just look up the chart. You'll find it on Google if you look it up. Sharon says, is it a 5? It was a 5. It is not a 5 anymore. Right now, it is a Category 4 because it is undergoing what we call a eyewall replacement cycle. It is currently regaining itself back together. So, it's using a little bit of its energy to recycle itself, essentially. Let's see here. How good are the models when the storm has unprecedented growth like this one has? Well, the models adapt to what the storm does because essentially, we are currently, we're always gathering observations as well. We're gathering, surface data, upper air data. Hurricane Hunter is a great example. They fly into the storm. We get the flight level data. We get the dropsons that they drop. We gain a lot of information. They take that information, they plug it in the models. No matter what the system's doing, every model run is staying up to date with what the storm is doing at the same time and just projects it further down in time. Does that make sense? So, I wouldn't. They're not completely useless. They're not completely inaccurate, but just remember they do get updated. It's not like what the storm does is completely blind to the models, like they can't see it. No, the models can see what is going on because of the observations we keep flooding it in. Not just ground stations, but like I mentioned, also upper air stations too. Flights. Typical airliners. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that most airliners have weather monitoring equipment that gets sent to the weather service or to the models. So just typical flights help with that, essentially. But anyways, let's see here. What's my thoughts on the new area of interest tag in the main development region? Like where it will go, stuff like that. I know it's still way too far out to say exactly, but what's my general idea? You got it right. It is a little bit too far out. So there has been a bit of conflicting, agreement here between the models. It's really early to say. There's really not a whole lot I can really tell you about it. GFS wants the system to become strong, go west, ultimately ending up by the Antilles. Not guaranteed, though, so don't worry about it fully. Right now, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. ECMWF here, you can shows the system a lot further, a lot weaker. Not even a depression here. Likely not even a depression. It's just kind of just a very disorganized low. It actually has it working its way further north here. The system's going to need to be monitored. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. But yeah, it's just, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just too early to tell. Not a whole lot we can say on it right now. Let's see here. Jeremy says, thank you for answering my question. It makes sense. Thank you, sir. Yeah, no problem. I got you. Yeah, like I said, guys, if y'all have any questions for me, I'm here for y'all. We're here to help you guys out. And, I'm here to explain things the best I can. I might not be the best teacher out there. I don't know everything, of course. I know a lot. I know enough to forecast and let you guys know what's going on. But, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I don't know everything there is in the world, so there could be a question or two that I don't know the answer to, but I know the basics, and in this I know a little bit beyond the basics, but yeah, you're welcome, of course. Let's see here. Jared says, thanks, Drew. You always answer my questions and don't call me. What? I appreciate you, man. Yeah, no problem. Let's see, the water is still very warm behind Erin. So, obviously we're going to get a lot of upwelling. The waters are going to start to cool down quite dramatically. Right now, the latest 18 UTC analysis does not suggest any cooling has occurred yet. Yet, I say. So here's current analysis. You can see, so the system tracked over here. Probably a little bit more north, but yeah, there's no noticeable changes. There's no noticeable upwelling or anything like that with the latest analysis. This was at 18 UTC too, so this wasn't, it was a little greater, like 9 hours ago, basically. I'm pretty sure. So it's new enough though that it would show. But anyways, so yeah, eventually though, yeah, in the models, it is gonna really start to bring up some cooler waters here. Let me go ahead and show you guys here real quickly. Like for example, let's pull up the HWRF model. We'll do sea surface temperatures here. So yeah, even the models here don't really show much of a change there. But yeah, you can see once though we we work our way down in time, and once that system gets a lot bigger and stronger, you can see how it's really going to cool down those waters here. Looks like, according to the HWRF, it shows those waters maybe getting down to 24 Celsius, which is pretty chilly. But but yeah, it definitely does show that. Absolutely. Sorry for always calling you Drew, not Andrew, but thanks. I don't care. Y'all can call me Drew, Andrew. I don't mind. I get called both all the time. It doesn't bother me at all. Call me Drew, call me Andrew. It's all up to you. We have another Drew, by the way. Any chances it moves to Georgia? Direct landfall? No. However, coastal Georgia will likely get some pretty decent waves out of it. But yeah, we're not going to have any direct landfall or anything like that for Georgia. So let me hop y'all over here to the eastern Atlantic here. So yeah, here's Georgia's coast. Y'all can see. So looking at GFS, yeah, you can see the system just remains well far to the east here, as literally like all the other models do. But like I mentioned, the only thing that we really got to look out for Georgia, so GFS suggests kind of peak waves roughly around the morning of the 20th here. Peak waves could be about 5, maybe at worst, not even 10 feet, which, I mean, still could be a little choppy, that's for sure. But Euro, kind of the same thing, not a whole lot of difference. We're definitely going to notice some pretty big waves out here. There's likely going to be some rip current concerns and stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, no direct landfall is expected. There's no models that show it either, so that's that. Let's see here. Jared says it's free, y'all. Hit the like. He's a creative forecast and subscribe. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that, my friend. That's really sweet of you, man. Appreciate it. If you guys could consider subscribing, I'm not gonna hold y'all to it, but I tell you what, though, I will always do my best in order to make sure you guys are staying up to date with the weather and telling you guys the truth, because I know there's a lot of people out there that like to make stuff up. And, yeah, I promise we're going to be 100% truthful to you guys all the time. I promise that. Let's see here. How about Charleston, South Carolina? So South Carolina, kind of the same thing as Georgia. We were just talking about, a little bit of waves, stuff like that, some rip currents. But the system just remains off the coast of South Carolina. Now, North Carolina, like we mentioned, though, it's a little different for North Carolina because, North Carolina kind of sticks out a little bit more here, as you can see. The system is going to get a little bit closer to North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina, this is Euro, by the way, the ECMWF here. You can see here that the Euro does suggest could get maybe 15-foot waves or greater. I mean, could be quite big. Definitely rip current, and this would be very dangerous for small vessels, small craft. Like little fishing boats and stuff like this would not want to be out during that. It'll be a little rough, okay? But anyways, yeah, so we gotta pay a little extra attention to the coastal North Carolina because of the waves are going to be a lot bigger. And there's limited guidance. I say limited because not all models agree on it. There is limited guidance on the potential of maybe some near tropical storm, if not tropical storm conditions, on the far eastern side of North Carolina. Not guaranteed, though. We'll have to see what happens. So you can see this shows a 35-knot wind barb here. This is just off the U.S. East Coast, or just off the coast of North Carolina here. We'll have to see what happens. Definitely have to see what happens here. But even if it did, it would be low-end tropical storm, but just a rain with a name. But yeah, tropical storms, they do have impacts, of course, but it's not going to be a full-blown hurricane or anything like that. Okay. Do you think it could make another run into Cat 5? I think it's possible. I think it is. But remember, eventually the storm is going to, use its strength, not just in its overall, or it's going to use its energy, I should say, not strength. It's going to use its energy not just in its strength, but in its size. Eventually the system's going to expand, and it's going to use a lot of its energy to get bigger and not necessarily just to get stronger, if that makes sense. Any other storms forming, or is it just Erin? So we do have another system. in the domain development region we're watching. It's too early to tell right now. It's too early to tell. Models are so all over the place at the moment. Yeah. It is a 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days, and throughout the next 48 hours or 2 days, 0%. We're not expecting much out of it right now. But if anything happens out of it, we'll be on it. We'll let you guys know. So we're here for y'all. Do I think they're going to announce evacuations? Absolutely not. No. If there was an imminent danger for a major or just a hurricane hitting the coast, which there's not even a singular model suggests it right now, they don't usually evacuate for tropical storms. No, and chances are there's a chance we might not even have any form of tropical storm conditions in the United States. The only area, like I said, we're gonna watch is like coastal North Carolina. Mostly just like north of Wilmington and, out there kind of by like Nags Head and, some of those regions out there. It could get a little bit more windy out here. We'll just have to see what happens. It's not guaranteed. Will Northeast Florida get impacts? Coastal impacts, yes. Like some rip currents and stuff like that. But no like rain bands or no tropical storm or hurricane force winds. No, none of that. Let's see here. Since the models are weaker, doesn't that mean that they are pulling them closer to the U.S.? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Let's see here. What does the red mean hitting Florida? Here, let me go and hop y'all back over here to the models. I think you're talking about the waves, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Okay, so it doesn't hit Florida, but if this is what you're talking about, this map, you can see on the right-hand side, this is the wave height here. We were just looking at this, and it was showing, just potential wave height here. This is the Euro model, the ECMWF here. Whoops. But yeah, it does show maybe a good 5, maybe upwards of, I wouldn't even say 10 foot, because that'll be mostly well out to coast here. But yeah, just maybe 5 to 8 or so foot or so, according to Euro. GFS, on the other hand, let's see. Oh, we got the new run coming through. That'll be interesting. Yeah, so the GFS has a little bit more, but still nothing greater than 10 foot on the coastal areas. So, excuse me. What about Virginia Beach? Well, Virginia Beach is, definitely going to feel those waves as well. I mean, you can see here, GFS does suggest just off of the coast of Virginia Beach here. I mean, we're getting some pretty rough waters out there. Definitely wouldn't want to be in a boat or any, small craft out in that. I mean, yeah, it'll definitely get pretty rough. The waters will definitely get very rough out there. Euro, on the other hand, the ECMWF here has a system a little bit further behind, but doing the same thing basically. Showing some pretty rough waves just off the coast here. I mean, you go probably a good 50 miles or so, and you're going to be hitting 10+ foot waves. I mean, like I said, this thing's really going to be sloshing around some water here. And remember, that's common too. That's not just one model. That's not just one run either. That's different models, different runs. Still suggesting that. So that's confidence there. That is definitely confidence. Jared coming in with a $5 Cash App donation, dude. Jared, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Saying, let's see here. Thanks, man, dude. You are very welcome, Jared. Thank you so much, dude. Y'all, please give Jared a big thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Big shout out for you. Yeah, that really helps us out. Helps keep us afloat, help pay for the programs and stuff. So for the people who have directly contributed, seriously, thank you. Y'all don't have to do that. Just y'all hanging out and, staying weather-wear is all I care about. But it really does help us out a ton, and it does help keep us rolling. So, Jared, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate that. It's really sweet of you. And but yeah, it definitely does go to help. That's for sure. I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, so back to Virginia Beach, though. I mean, impacts are going to be limited. They will. Regarding, like, tropical storm conditions and stuff, and like I mentioned, North Carolina might have a chance at, brief or near tropical storm conditions. We'll have to see. Not guaranteed. But Virginia Beach, we could get some gusty winds out there. I mean, just off the coast of Virginia Beach here. Let's grab a little sounding. Shows a 25 knot barb. That's under tropical storm force. That's GFS here. Let's see here. Go ahead and pull up the latest models. There has been quite a big difference in the last 2 GFS runs, though. You see that? So this is the model before. This is the new model. Goodness. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens here. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any imminent danger for, tropical storm or anything like that for you guys right now. Let's see here. Sorry, it ain't much, bro. My transmission's going out in my brand new truck I brought. Dude, that is totally fine, dude. Honestly, even if it's a penny, it's a lot to me. Seriously. Don't you worry about that, dude. Really, just thank you so much for contributing. It means the world to me. It doesn't matter about how much it is. It's just it's greatly appreciated, dude. Thank you. Yeah, save your money, man. Get you a transmission fixed out there. Let me guess. Was it a Chevy? I'm gonna lose half of my viewer count here in a second for saying that. Oh, buddy. Let's see. Is it gonna hit Georgia? Or Deep South says it's gonna hit Georgia. Watch it shift by tomorrow. No, it's not gonna hit Georgia. And there is not a singular model that has it hitting the United States directly. I mean, shoot. Let me show you this once again. See if this changes your mind, okay? Let me hop you guys back over here real quickly. I'm gonna move you all here. All right, we're gonna start off with the main hurricane models. We're gonna start off with the main hurricane models here. So, go and take a look at this here. So this is the main set of hurricane models. It's the latest 0 UTC run here. So there is Bermuda. You can see the U.S. East Coast here is the Northeast. So, yeah, not a singular model has it hitting the coast. It just kind of swerves and just stays between the United States East Coast and between Bermuda. Not any model, not a singular Hurricane Hunter model, or Hurricane Hunter model. I need to go to bed. Heard not a single hurricane model. Man, I'm losing it. It is getting late in my defense. But yeah, not a single model does have it hitting the United States directly, which is good. I'm not done. So then we had the GEFS ensembles. This is the 18 UTC run. Boom. So this is a single model with a bunch of members. Not a singular member has it hitting the United States anywhere. Still not convinced? Oh, we ain't done. We ain't done yet. So here's Bermuda. Here's the U.S. East Coast once again. You guys can see. Not a single member hitting the United States directly. And then, of course, we have the GEPS model. This is the closest one, but still not a singular member getting anywhere near the, or not a single member hitting the United States directly. Keeps everything just between Bermuda and in the United States. So the odds of that going against all of those models, all of those members, is like extremely low. I mean, like really low, if not nearly impossible. So that's why I highly disagree. Kayla, I don't think it will. I do think the U.S. is going to have some impacts with it, yes. So we'll have to see. Let's see. You're so awesome and respectful. Yep, it's a GMC truck. I called it. I hope you know I'm just joking with you. But I appreciate it, dude. And seriously, it's greatly appreciated. You're awesome, Jared. Thank you. What's up, Dotch? Hope you're doing good. I think that's how you say it. See, it could hit Newfoundland and by 3 models. I mean, that's kind of far-fetched, though, because, once we get to Newfoundland, that's a good almost 150 hours out, which you guys know me. I have a strong cap on going anything further than 150 unless there is significant agreement. There's not significant agreement. There is a few members showing it hit Newfoundland, but most of it keep it off the coast. So, anyways. Called it. Dude. Me and my grandpa, we always used to go back and forth because I've always been a Ford guy and he'd always been a Chevy guy, and we'd always go back and forth. Let's see. Josh says the further line is right. Watch. We'll see. I mean, only time will tell, but I highly doubt it. All right. See you later, Jared. I don't know how long we'll be on here. We've been live already 2 hours, but it's getting a little late. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll just have to see, Josh. I think it's highly unlikely. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, y'all. Well, let's hop on back here or actually, we're going to look at some of these individual models again here, y'all. We're gonna pull up the half model, HEFS-A. Jared. That's funny, dude. Well, if you got Chevrolet, you got cracked heads, every valve rattles, engine ticks, oil leaks. That stands for Chevrolet. Golf says you're a Toyota guy. That's respectful. That is respectful. I ain't gonna lie. Let's see. But anyways, all right, y'all. Let's hop back over here to the west. I'm really curious to see what the 0 UTC run has to show us. I am really curious to see. Let's hop back to the 18 UTC run. So this is the one we have available now, but, we'll just have to see what happens with it. Once again, folks, taking a look back over here at the wave height here. This is going to be the main impact for the U.S. It's just going to be those big waves, just going to be those... those big waves being a concern, driving, potential coastal flooding and, coastal swelling, as well as, those rip currents and stuff like that. That's going to be the main thing we need to really look out for. And once again, a little bit of advice to you guys. If you don't know what a rip current is, say you're out in the water. A rip current is a strong ocean current that pulls you back into the ocean, pulls you back into the water, essentially. In which it's very strong force. So it pulls you back out into the water. What you guys need to do if you're caught in a rip current is do not swim directly back to the coast. I mean, do not go the way that you came from. You got to swim parallel or side to the coast here. Because if you swim directly back at the coast, those forces, that current is going to keep on pulling back at you, and you're just going to use up all your energy, like I've said, in the past many times on the stream. It's good advice. It's good to let people know, especially for people who come, in and out and stuff like that. Jessica. I've heard that so many times, man. Oh, man, oh, man. Anyways, but yeah, it's important that you guys just remember that. So if you're ever caught, but better yet, don't put yourself in a position where there's rip currents. Just make sure you're out away. I mean, you could be at the beach, yes. You can go and watch the waves all you want. You can even put your ankles in the water for all you want. Don't go waist deep out, because then it will start to really pull you. Very dangerous stuff. So, anyways. Yeah, Jacob, I think, he passed away a couple weeks ago, unfortunately. Ozzy, such a good singer, dude. Let's see. But anyways. Well, honestly, y'all, we're probably going to roll off here soon. We've been live for 2 hours. I think I'm probably going to call it a stream here. But if you guys have any questions, I mean, hey, feel free to let me know. Just go ahead and throw them down before we roll off here. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I'm not going to force y'all to. I'm not going to hold you to it, but just consider it. That way, you guys can stay up to date with the weather, and you guys know you're getting truthful weather here. So, anyways, I really, really appreciate it. See, Jacob's a troll. That's fair. There's a lot of trolls around there. People really don't have anything better to do they? But anyways, yeah, that way you guys can stay up to date, and we'll keep you guys updated. Once again, we'll go live again tomorrow morning, or tomorrow, maybe late morning, early afternoon. Depends on what time I get up and get going and stuff. Surfers don't care. I know they don't, and it's not good. I mean, I get that there's big waves and stuff, but rip currents are a big deal. So they're taking a big risk, and I highly recommend against it. I mean, what good is a little fun that could potentially ruin your life? I mean, it's not worth it. Not worth it at all. All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. Once again, if you have any final questions, last chance, going once, going twice. But yeah, we'll be back live tomorrow, sometime in the early afternoon, probably for an update, and then we'll go live again in the evening, like we typically do. I like to try to push out 2 updates. You know, during systems like this, I like to try to push out 2 updates, one in the, late morning, early afternoon, and then one in the evening here. So we'll definitely be here, living on the edge. All my SpongeBob folks will say living like Larry. Let's see here. But, all right, everybody. Jared says thanks. No, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Appreciate it once again. Thanks for your support and stuff, dude. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the night. Thank you all for joining. You guys stay safe. Try not to worry about it. Hey, right now, currently no imminent impacts, no imminent landfall for the United States expected. System should mostly be a fish storm, but there still is going to be some coastal concerns and stuff like that, so we'll keep an eye out there for it. But don't worry yourself to death over it. We'll keep an eye on it. If anything happens with it where we need, to really let y'all know any new big news that develops, we'll let you guys know. We'll keep you guys up to date and everything. But just don't worry. Don't let it get to you. And ignore those hype posts you guys see online. That's another bit of advice I'll say before I go off. But, all right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, my friends. Catch y'all later on.